Hey there, educators. Welcome back. Today, we're focusing on math moves that matter, building capacity one lesson at a time. This is the area where we really want to unpack what it takes to teach math in ways that are meaningful, equitable, and enduring. I'm your host, Lanisha, math coach and educator, and I am joined by someone who is extraordinary today, and I can't wait to get into this conversation. We are both committed to shifting the way that we think about instruction, one intentional move at a time. So, here, we don't really chase trends on this podcast. We really want to focus on building capacity, lesson by lesson, relationship by relationship, and move by intentional move. So, whether you're a classroom teacher, instructional coach, or just math curious, this space is for you. Together, we'll explore strategies that affirm students' identities, challenge the status quo, and make space for brilliance, especially for those often left on the margins. So, without further ado, I want to invite my guest to share all the awesome things that she has going on. Miss Tony, let the people know who you are.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited. I think, girl, we are sisters in the world. In the math, like we are sisters in this math world. And so I'm so excited to just be here, just to talk math, because I love talking math and doing math with people who we are like eye to eye on. So I know I'm going to enjoy this hour. I'm Toni Hardy, and I am the MathWise coach. And the reason that I say that I'm the MathWise coach is because I started out as a seventh grade math educator, and I really wanted my kids to learn why they were doing things, why they were performing certain operations, so that they'll be able to apply that mathematics in other areas, because that's what our kids struggle with. It's really understanding relationships and understanding how math just works together. And things just happen and you go deeper, but it's really the same thing over and over again. It's the patterns, it's the relationships, it's the connections that they make. And so that is something that I became passionate about. And so when I became passionate about it, I moved into an instructional coach role as I worked at a district. So I've been an educator for 18 years. And 12 of those years, I was an instructional coach. And those are the things that I brought to the role, is really loving the mathematics and understanding the why behind things and helping teachers to understand the why behind it, which led to the kids understanding the why behind it. Because, you know, the way we were taught math years ago is not the way the kids are taught math now. I mean, the language is different. We expect kids to go deeper and understand critical thinking and understand why all the stuff works. But if no one teaches you to think in that way, then there's no way that you can learn that and help you to make those connections, because there are natural connections. If we use that language, that real mathematical language, and use it correctly, kids can make those connections. So I became an instructional coach, and all of my career has been in Title I campuses. So I know kids can do it. And I was there for 12 years, and I just got to the point where I was like, I know that I can help more people. I know that I can do more to help teachers and kids everywhere. And so I branched out and decided that I wanted to start my own educational consulting business. And that's what I did. And so this is actually my third year in my consulting business. Um, I worked in as a district coach and in my business for like a year, and then I just transitioned out. But right now, I am really working on coaching teachers and providing professional development to them in a way that helps them to actually get it. Because I'm not about putting band aids on the mathematics. I'm not about putting band aids on the issues. I'm about figuring out what the thing is to help teachers to get it, to help kids to get it. So that's where my head always is. Is what data do I have, either formal or informal, to help to figure a path to help teachers to make an intentional plan that will give them intentional results. So that's where my head always is. I have been working with, I don't know if you know Robert Kraplinski. He is another math guy who's also an educational consultant. He has a website and has his whole community where he has compiled a bunch of amazing educators, their videos and mini workshops, and he wants it to be like a grassroots place where people can come and teachers can come and get reasonably priced professional development. Well, I've partnered with him, and so I have, a video series on his website, and also, I have my own things that are going, and I have some resources for parents, some resources for teachers, so I'm just doing a lot of different things because I know that it takes a village. Parents have to understand the math and understanding the whys behind it to be able to support what's happening in the classroom. And if they don't support what's happening in the classroom, because it's mostly because they don't understand it and they didn't like math in the first place because they think they aren't math people, which is not a real thing. So that's a whole other thing. I'm so excited about this conversation because we're going to talk about some stuff.
We're going to talk about some stuff. I'm excited as well. Thank you for that dynamic introduction and all the things that she mentioned. I do want to make sure that I include in the show notes so that you guys can take advantage of all the things that she's putting out there to truly support mathers. And we all have the ability to be mathers. Okay. There's no such thing as math people because you're a person and you could do math. So
Yes.
that's already you. Okay. So I'm excited to go ahead and jump into this. And I shared with you before we started recording that this summer I really want to take some time and walk with teachers as they are reflecting over the year and thinking about the things that happened this past year in preparation for next school year. So I want us to start our conversation thinking about what are one or two key shifts teachers can make this summer to build their capacity for deeper math instruction next year.
I think the big thing when I coach teachers is really reflecting on the year and really reflecting on the things that happened that were really good, but also thinking about the things that happened that maybe you need to make little tweaks to. Because we know that when you are making that lasting change, you can't figure out something huge and think you're going to attack it that all in one year. You have to figure out what is almost there, what needs a little bit of a tweak and focus on that and do the small things that get you to where you want to be. So I always try to encourage teachers because when you are teaching, then it's like you have so much to do that you don't want just another thing to do, you know? You don't want another thing on your plate. And so we always focus on what's happening well. Okay, so how are we going to tweak that to make it even better? And the thing that I always focus on is questioning because I know that questioning gets those connections. What questions? How are you going to make those questions appear in your lesson? Are you going to script those questions? Go back to those lessons. Look at that data on that. That lesson was good, but it could be great. And what can you do to make it great? And it's always for me the questions because it pulls in that rigor and those relationships and all those connections that we want.
Absolutely. So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about atomic habits. So I've mentioned this on the podcast before. That's a book that I've now read, I think 2.5 times, where if I get into kind of like a rut and I'm trying to accomplish something, I'll kind of pick it up and read through it. And I'm thinking about it because you said we need to reflect and then kind of think about those small things, those small changes that we can make, because making those small changes, they add up over time, right?
Mm.
So I'm thinking about as we're having teachers to reflect, think about what are some of those pain points that maybe kept coming up over the course of the year. So you mentioned questioning. So was that something in your conversation with your coach where, you guys were constantly working on questions that you could ask to kind of assess where students are or advance where you want them to go? If that could be one thing that you could be working on this summer, right? That's what I'm hearing from you. And then I also heard a little bit about data. You mentioned something about data. So now I'm thinking about if you knew that maybe you were giving assessments, but you really won't using them that great. That could be one area you can focus on this summer. How can I get better with using my data to inform my instruction? Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. So
That's exactly right, because with me, that's where my love is. My love is the data, because if you don't have some formal or informal data, how can you make decisions? And so that's where I go. I'm looking at student conversations. I'm looking at, um, when I talk to them, what is it that you're missing? Because the kids can tell you what they get and don't get. So all of that is data. Every time you walk into the classroom and the kids are speaking, the kids are writing, that is data that teachers should be watching and should be looking at to determine what am I going to do next? What tweak am I going to make sure that they get this? And so that right there is a love of mine. Is not only looking at the assessment data, because that's a whole other piece. But marrying those 2 things to get the most bang for the buck out of the classroom.
That is so critical because I think when we think about data, sometimes we're always thinking about EOGs or EOCs or a unit assessment. But
Mhm.
you just said it, like listening to students, watching students, that's giving us information that we could be using to kind of help point us or them in the right direction.
Right.
One thing that I love talking about, and I think you do too, just from watching some of your TikTok videos, is making sense, right? I think it's super important for us to make sense of the material. So, how can teachers move from just covering content, just to say that we've done it, and to helping students uncover and make sense of those relationships?
Well, I think the big issue is that sometimes teachers don't have the confidence
Mm,
in their knowledge of the mathematics, and their ability to meet a kid anywhere and to get them to that higher level. Some people don't have that confidence. And again, I think that goes back to how we were taught. We were taught very surface level. And so we tend to teach others the way we were taught. We tend to bring in all of those, we're going to do the butterfly and we're going to do this and we're going to do that because that's the way we were taught. And so we have to move away from those things and help teachers to be more confident in their ability to help the kids. And by doing that, it's that they have to take part in the math. They have to think the way that our kids are thinking. And if they think that way, then they can make the connection themselves. And then they can help kids to make the connections. But it's all about how the teachers are thinking. And so
mm.
part of my experience in being an instructional coach, it's a very fine line. You can't talk to teachers like they're children, but um, it's a very fine line. Teachers have to feel like they are giving some input into this because they know so much about their children. So I think it's about for us to ask the teachers what their input is. What is it that they're seeing that's happening in the classroom and what they think the disconnect is? Because we know already that what the answer is for the most part. And then helping them to see how they can use the information that we're giving them to help the kids to bridge those connections. But it's all about helping the teachers to feel confident in their abilities first, because if they don't feel confident in it, it doesn't matter what you say to them, how much you model it for them, what you do for them, they're still not going to do it because they don't feel confident in it. They have to feel the confidence. And when they are taking part in that mathematics, then they'll have that buy-in too.
That made me think about when the students are in the classroom and how sometimes we can feel like, okay, because I'm the teacher, because I'm at the front of the classroom, I'm the expert, I'm the holder of all of
Mhm.
the knowledge.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes in that it can create an even bigger hurdle. The kids might have already came with one, just just how they feel about their ability to do the mathematics. But by us kind of holding that and kind of gatekeeping,
Mhm. Mhm.
it can kind of create that divide there. I think it's the same way whenever we're working with teachers as well. Like, yes, I am the coach, but I'm not gonna come in here acting like I know more about your students than you do, and you're in here with your students every day.
Right.
So
Mhm.
building the capacity in the teachers to say, I know something, like I know something about my students that I can contribute to this
Mhm.
conversation. And I want the teachers to feel empowered to do that.
Yes, because that's what it's all about. Our job is all about that because a lot of the teachers and being an instructional coach for so long, I had to learn all this because when we started, I didn't have anyone to say, "Okay, I'm gonna take you under my wing." Just no. This was like a trial and error type thing that you had to learn, and going in and saying that if this teacher style is more of a laid back type of style, what do I do? What do I say to help that teacher to gain confidence in her abilities? It doesn't mean I'm gonna go in and focus on 2 or 3 things at a time. I'm gonna focus on that one thing that I know is gonna give that high impact, the thing that I know is gonna touch so many other areas. And so the thing that I usually touch on with teachers is fractions, because fractions is everywhere. Fractions are everywhere and they touch so many different areas. So helping them to be more confident in those areas is where I usually start, especially because I'm mostly elementary, going into 6th grade. But it starts. Fractions start in first, second grade, and even in first, second grade, teachers aren't confident in teaching the kids the fractions because they go so much into understanding a term instead of understanding the meat of it, instead of understanding the concept of fractions.
Mm,
And so that's just an example of some things that, that I know that teachers have issues with. And it's because of their confidence in working with fractions and
mm,
working with the mathematics.
mm. Wow. So from that, my takeaway from that is for some people, that one thing that we're focusing on this summer might be content related stuff.
Mhm.
So like seeing where the gaps are in maybe my knowledge and maybe using this time, not all the time, because we want to make sure we resting. We got to get rejuvenated for next year. But maybe devoting some of that time to understanding some of those areas that we don't feel as confident in. And I think most of us can tell if it's an area I'm not confident in because you feel different whenever you teach it,
Mhm. And
even when you're preparing for it. Mhm.
and when you look at your data, okay, I did not teach my kids to the best of my ability. And so it may mean that you have to go out and reach out and find some extra PD from some other place or read a book and do some models or some different things just to strengthen your content knowledge. But you always start with what you understand first. And say, for example, if it is fractions and you start and you aren't sure how to do common denominators, then what models can I create? So, what model can I use? What other ways can I help kids to make these connections? It may be something that goes from concrete to that representational where they're drawing a picture, or may go from concrete all the way over to the abstract where there's only that numerical stuff that's happening. And so, thinking about that, you have to figure out where you are and then bridge from there. When this whole new math thing came along, I was very new with instructional coaching. And I remember talking to some teachers and they told me, "I'm just scared that y'all just gonna give us," because in my district we wrote the curriculum too. And so she was like, "Well, I'm just scared that y'all just gonna give us the stuff and we're gonna be on our own." Because that's what a lot of teachers feel. This is just we haven't thought of it this way. I didn't know that we could even do it that way. We just gonna be on our own. What are y'all gonna do to help us? Because they're scared. I don't want you to be scared. What I want you to do is have an open mind that if we are able to solve a problem one way, there are so many different ways that we can solve that. We're gonna find those ways and know how to do the models, know how to do the abstract, know how to make those connections between those. So when your kids come to you, then you're able to see where they are and to bridge them to where they need to be because you are more confident in the mathematics. So it may not be even to go and do a PD. It may be I'm just going to grab my book and I'm going to say, okay, I had Johnny this year and this is where he was. What could I have done to move him to this place? Where was he? Was he more in the concrete? So what could I have done to move him? Okay, so what does that look like? And even writing those things down. That's a lot of things that I did when we didn't have a lot of support in the new math stuff, you know? I have a book that I love. It's called Teaching Student-Centered Mathematics, and I always keep it with me, and they call it my Bible, my math Bible, by John Vanderwall and some other folks, but this is the book right here that saved my life because of the new math stuff, you know? And so it may be that those are the things that you do. It doesn't take a whole lot. You do that on your own time, and you don't have to tell anybody if you get a problem right or not. All you're doing is trying to make yourself better for your kids, and it will show up in your scores.
So, okay. So, you know how we have this thing where after those contract hours are over, a lot of
Mhm,
people don't feel like they want to do anything additional.
mhm.
So, I think that that is something that we're battling in the schools. Just teachers feeling like their time may not necessarily be protected and
Mhm,
feeling like they have to do additional things.
mhm,
So what we're discussing, I feel like is like maybe like even a personal development goal. Like
mhm,
be the best teacher that I can be. I know that I need to do X, Y, and Z. But I think we still have to address what some may consider a hurdle, which is I'm doing this stuff outside of work and I ain't getting paid for it. So this is a little off track from what I wanted to talk to you about, but because
uh,
I just want to know your thoughts on it. How do
yeah.
we get teachers to look beyond this is what I'm getting paid for versus this is a time that I'm not getting paid to really focusing on how can I show up to be the very best teacher I can be in front of my students?
I think that You'll have some teachers who are coachable and some who are not, just from my experience. And there are some people that you're not going to be able to encourage them to do it because they're just against it. But you will have some for sure who want that personal growth and they will do the things that they need to. And so when I work with teachers, I always encourage them for sure to make sure that when you're at work, you are working. That means every minute of the day you are working. And so that means during your lesson planning time, what is it that you are doing to work smart? And so that's when I go back to the data because all of this, the stuff that I'm talking about, this stuff can be done during like PLC. It can be done during lesson planning time before we even start to plan the lesson. Okay, where are we going? We're going to do that backward planning. What is it that the kids are missing? And if I taught this last year, then that means that I'm still, and my kids didn't do well last year. I already know just from the jump that I know that I'm going to need some extra support. So, where are those misconceptions? What is it that I'm missing? What do I know about this? What am I strong in? Okay, so I'm going to tweak that up and I'm going to figure out how to move my kids from there. So, I think it's about the mindset of it because if they think that they're doing something in addition, that's what's going to keep them from wanting to go and do this. But if they know that this is not an addition, this is good lesson planning. This is good preparation so that you'll be able to teach your kids. And you know what? The goal is for the kids to do well on whatever end of the year assessment we have. These things will help them to do well on it. And you'll see at the end of the year, if you do the things, you'll see at the end of the year that your kids are going to soar. And it's all because of those little intentional things that you do, the little tweaks that you make. I'm not asking you to go in and make a huge, huge change. It's the small things.
Mhm. Yes. So you said be productive. In my head,
Mhm.
I'm like, be productive, be productive. I'm hearing this little cheer in the back of my head because I think that is a challenge for a lot of educators where we'll be on planning or we'll have a break and we'll
Mhm.
use that time to go talk to somebody or to vent, and then the vent session goes too long, and it just doesn't you just don't end up using your time in the most efficient way, and now the time is gone, the kids are back, and you're like, "Oh, no, I'm not doing anything extra because this is the day." But we have
Mhm.
to be a little bit, as you were saying, we just have to be intentional about what
Right.
we're doing with our time and not dread PLC meetings. We have to
Mhm.
use them to our advantage to help us accomplish the things that we know we need to accomplish while we at work.
Yes. Yes. I love
Thank you.
PLC time though, and the
Me
reason
too.
is because of the data. I mean, this is a time that we get to talk about together what's happening. If we have teachers in there and you have one that didn't do well in a specific area and another one who did, well, okay, well, you're gonna talk. I'm not gonna be leading this all the time. This is a time where we are working together to figure it out because we are a group. We are a team that's moving the kids forward. This isn't a me thing. This is a we thing, you know? So PLC was my favorite time because of that. Because you can pull out so much and learn so much when it's planned intentionally. So everything I do is about intentionality. Because if you don't have a plan to do it, then I feel like you're planning to fail.
Absolutely.
And so that's where my work is always about intentionally growing your students. Because if you don't put a plan in place and roll that plan, then you're not going to get the result that you want. You're going to be
100.
upset over and over again.
100%. Whenever I started teaching, I was in a high school at that time, and
Mhm.
to talk about data was like talking about, I don't know, whatever is hush hush, whatever the secret is, that's what it was to talk about data. Like you came one on one to come get your data sheets from like the feedback from EOCs and things like that. Nobody shared theirs. We didn't really want to have conversations about it. And I know high school is its own different beast in comparison to the other grade bands,
Mhm.
but I feel like we all should really want to be open about what's going on because everybody's going to have those different strengths that we then can kind of learn from. So
Yeah.
let me pick your brain. What's your approach to using student data meaningfully without it becoming overwhelming or punitive to the teachers who are involved?
I had a system that I trained teachers how to look at data, and it's again it's an intentional thing where for example, if you have the high impact areas, we know that's division. We know it's fractions. We know it's place value. Those high impact areas, looking at the data through a specific lens to figure out where you should spend your time that will give you the most impact. And when you figure out that thing that where you're going to spend that time, then you sit down and you figure out a plan to get you there. So in elementary and in intermediate, moving into middle school campuses, the issue that I run into is that teachers are overwhelmed with the data because it's so much of it. They don't know what to do and where to spend their time. And so that's why I'm saying, okay, we're not going to look at it as a whole. We're going to look at these specific things. This is how we're going to look at it. This is how we're going to make the plan. And then because we have a plan, now we have to act on it. We can't just make the plan and put it on paper. We have to act. Okay, so what are your actions? And part of that is looking at the scope and sequence and determining where specific concepts are taught. Okay, so if I know a specific concept is taught at this time, then what does my bell ringer look like during that time? What are my questions during that time to make sure that I am gauging prior knowledge? What are my activities? If I have stations, what are my stations? What do those things look like that support this one key piece that I'm going to focus on all year long to get my kids better on this one specific thing? And if they get better on this thing, then that means it touches other areas. Because in fractions, we know in fractions, it touches decimals, it touches percents, it touches all of those areas. And so we have a key area of target. That's where how I look at the data all the time.
So one thing that I'm hearing over and over again through our conversation is just taking a small piece, going granular is what my district called it the last couple of years, just going granular. What is the one thing that we can focus on and getting better at that one thing, or finding what are your high leverage items that if we
Yes.
focus on that, it is going to advance us in all
Yes.
of the other areas. So that's a
Mhm.
thing. And I'm hoping that the people who are listening are also picking up on that theme. So now thinking about the way that you kind of focus teachers that you support in looking at the data, what
Mhm.
routines or tools would you recommend to teachers who want to build conceptual understanding from day one? And I want us to start by thinking about what conceptual understanding is. Because for me, sometimes I think people think it is just drawing out shapes or drawing out things or just making models. But I really think it's the ability to like look at like main ideas and see connections between things. But I really want to hear your thoughts on what conceptual understanding is, and then we'll work our way back to the question.
Okay, first, from day one, I think the issue is confidence and knowing, and it's the environment that you set. When the kids come into the classroom, if they know from day one that when they come in, they're going to be expected to talk math, explain math. They're expected to be mathematicians where they're going to be looking at relationships, looking at patterns, explaining, and it's not going to come just from the teacher all day. That has to be set very early on. It has to be set day one because it can't be something that they come in one at the beginning of the year and they form habits. And then at the middle of the year, it's like, nope, we got to start talking math. Nope. This is a day one type of thing. I think that right there is huge in the environment and the expectations that you set, the high expectations that you set and hold kids to all year long. And the content, after you get that buy in and that mindset set, then that content is easier to deliver. And that conceptual knowledge is understanding the why behind the stuff. Because I'm able to make those connections. I'm able to see relationships. Because if kids are open minded and think that they can see the relationship and understand the pattern and apply those patterns, then there's no way that you're going to be able to get them to that level of rigor where you need them to be. So I think that confidence is huge, and that conceptual understanding is understanding the why behind that math and that relationship, so that they can apply that knowledge. If they can apply it, then it's just like learning a trick. They don't know when they're gonna be able to when they need to apply it because they don't really understand the trick. They learn the trick this time. I learned a butterfly in this class, so when I get to the next class or the next grade level, the teacher calls it something else. So I'm gonna have to relearn that over and over again. Nope, call math what math is. Give it the language that is the true language. Use a true language for mathematics, and kids will get it because they can.
One thing that stood out to me is on day one, We have to roll out our expectations and then hold students accountable for meeting those expectations. Now,
Mhm.
I want us to get real for a minute. In order for us to have an expectation that students are mathematicians, we have
Mhm.
to believe it. Because
Yes.
if we don't believe
Yes.
it, it's gonna be hard for
Yes.
us to convince the kids because they're
Yes.
gonna see that you ain't really convinced. Okay. So
Yes.
you need to check how you're feeling about your students' abilities because sometimes there are people that are teaching in schools and in classrooms with
Mhm.
students who they don't necessarily believe are capable
Mhm.
of things.
Mhm.
So take this time as you're listening to this, as you're reflecting, as this is resonating in your spirit, and see, do I believe that all the kids, regardless of their background, regardless of what happened last year, regardless of any other thing that somebody told me, is a mathematician? And if you don't think that, then
But those are the kids where you make the most growth
mhm,
right there. Those are the children. And just speaking from experience, that though that's the thing that gives you goosebumps,
mhm,
is when you have kids that come in and they have been in trouble. 6th grade all last year. They were in trouble with the teacher. I mean, they were low in reading, they're low in math, they block students, they live in the same neighborhood and they in the same classes all day long and they misbehave together all day long. I mean, those are the kids where I came from and where I worked with. And I know that when you have expectations, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Not at all. When I'm not saying it's going to be easy to set those expectations from early on, but when they realize that you expect them to come in and do the mathematics because you believe that they can do it for one, and that you believe that you can help them for two, they will come in and they will work for you and they will get on each other because they know that the when you come in here, this is about math time. We're not talking about what happened in the hallway. We're not talking about that. We're talking about being mathematicians because this opens doors for you. And I'm helping you to open a door. We're not doing that.
I
Okay.
am helping you to open a door. Woo!
Yes. And so, I mean, because I'm like, we gonna kick it down, honey. That's what we all about over here. It's kicking doors down. And we know that
Uh-huh.
mathematics gets you there. And they make the most growth when you set that expectations. No, you will do it. You will do it, and I believe that you can do it because if I didn't believe you could do it, I wouldn't even be here. I would not be here.
Mm, so hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So I am here as the teacher, as the coach, because I believe that the kids in my class can do it.
Mhm.
When you
I
talking about
believe you can
why,
do it.
you talking about math wise. Now we talking about teacher wise.
Mhm.
Why are you here? Because you believe the kids can do it.
Yes.
Mic
I
drop.
think that a lot of times that, and all of this is just my experience. I know, with working with teachers who think that they have high expectations and they really don't because they don't want the kids to struggle. But what happens is that the kids start feeling helpless and we start giving them tricks and we start giving them these things because we want them to feel success. They will feel success because when you give them success and give them high expectations, they earn that. They feel it when they start getting it. They know when you align to them. They know when they don't know the mathematics. A lot of the kids that I work, they're street kids. Street kids know game. They know. And so when you give them that level of mathematics and they figure it out and they can make those connections, you see it. You see it on their faces. And that's the thing that keeps a lot of teachers going. I know it kept me going. It kept me going as a teacher. It kept me going as a coach. It kept me going because I know that the kids can get it because I saw them get it. I taught Title I campuses. I know they can get it. And I know you know they can get it. But you have to believe that they can. And when you believe in them, they'll believe it too and they'll work hard. And they'll make the most growth because I know that year for me, my kids made the most growth that year. And that was the roughest year that I had with kids, and they made the most growth. I'm telling you. And I know you know. I know it.
Yes. So,
Mhm.
okay. So remember I said that, we want to take this time to really be reflective and thinking
Mhm.
about the things that we can kind of tweak and things that we can kind of finesse. Well, not I ain't gonna say finesse, but things that we can work intentionally to get better so that we'll be better prepared for next year. So now
Okay.
let's think about it from instructional leaders and coaches.
Mhm.
What can we do to really support teachers in building this confidence that you have mentioned so often already and their competence so that it's not just for the students, but for themselves so that they can be better for the students?
I'm a big believer in social contracts, with students because I think that sets the tone for the classroom and the year. And I'm also a big social contract person with the teachers and if I work with whether individually or as a group, because I think that when the year gets going and there's, with the hustle and bustle, it becomes stress and then people get snippy, right? And they forget what they said they were going to do, right? So I believe in social contracts to hold each other accountable to things because of that. And when we set those social contracts, it's not just for how we interact with each other. It's the level of mathematics. It's the level of understanding. It sets the bar high for everything that we do. We always go back to the social contract for every single thing. Are we um digging into the content the way that we said that we were going to dig into the content at the beginning of the year before we got hectic? Are we listening to each other, and are the teachers having, time to talk to each other about what's happening, about the misconceptions that are happening in class, and giving them the opportunity to tell us or tell me what it is that they're seeing in the classroom. So you have to set the stage for all these things to happen. And so it's getting that PLC and structuring it so that you have all of these things in place. Social contract is huge for me, always has been, always will be, and then being able to have crucial conversations because you have to have a difficult conversation, but if you don't have the skills to have a difficult conversation, it could go bad, and real bad on top of that. And so so yes, very, very bad. Um And so I think that we have to develop these skills, and it comes with putting yourself in this place and holding people accountable to the things that they say that they're going to do, even if they don't want to hear that, you know. But I think it's also holding ourselves accountable to it too, and never asking our teachers to do something that we're not willing to get in there and dig in there and do ourselves, because that right there makes a person and it makes a teacher lose respect for you. And so before I even get to the content, these are the things that I think that teachers need. They need to know that first that they can trust and depend on you to be there when times, when they need you.
Mm.
Because they're gonna have those times where they're about to melt down and they just need to vent. And you just have to be there and know that it's not personal. And not take it personal and say, okay, what can I do to support you? Before you can even get to the mathematics part. And so now that we have this understanding and how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to communicate, now what can we do? What can we do together to get you to where you need to be? So it's all about a team. Everything is about a team and helping
Yes.
them to see that. And I love doing, having teachers to lead, like, the PLCs. When you see another teacher who's doing very well and doing all the things and knowing that most of the time that teachers listen to other teachers, of course, who are all in it every single day, they'll listen to that person. And then it becomes that you are leading that person to become a leader. So, the best feeling is when you're in the PLC and or you lead that coaching position, and those things that you taught the teachers and you work with them and collaborate with them to do, that they keep it going. They keep it going. They keep the mathematics going. They keep the conversations going. They keep all those things going, and then they become leaders in PLCs themselves, and that's what you want. You want them to take ownership in that, and the way that you take ownership is the way that you set those systems in place.
Mhm.
In with the content, but also how we trust and communicate with each other.
Mm. Okay, so I'm hearing relationships, I'm hearing systems.
Mhm.
Those systems are
Mhm.
important, and I'm hearing capacity. So
Mhm.
building that capacity for leadership for the teachers as well. Okay. All right. So
Yeah, through the systems, though. It's through the
Mhm.
systems that you do that. If you don't have good systems, that's a lot of teachers don't like PLCs because you don't have systems in place that makes it worth their while.
Mm.
You gotta make it come in there and make it valuable. The thing that I hate most is when people waste my time.
Mm,
They had their time, they have so little time. When I come in here, it better be something that I need.
right.
It better be something that's gonna help. That's what it should be.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about kind of like that reflective standpoint. So thinking about the summer, picking that one thing that I can work on, that I can
Mhm,
fine tune, and even from a teacher's perspective, some things that I could in a good relationship, in one that's helping me grow, I can expect them building a relationship. I can expect hopefully those systems in place, and I can expect to kind of grow um in my position, grow
mhm,
as a leader. So now let's think about it through the lens of school is getting ready to start back.
mhm.
So now what advice would you have for teachers who want to start that year with attention so that they can avoid that overwhelm of having to do all the things? Because we know at the beginning of the year, there's so many things that we are accountable for. There's so many things that we have to turn in, we have to collect. So how
Mhm.
can we avoid some of that overwhelm?
I'm a big triage person. And so I have a calendar that I create and I list my to-dos and I have a red, yellow, green. And so the things that I know that I have to take care of immediately, those are greens. The things that I know can stay kind of put on the back burner just a little bit, those are my yellows. And things that are immediate, those are my reds. You know, those are the things that I take care of immediately. And then I put them onto a calendar and I schedule those out. That's how I've always taken care of all the things because, even as an instructional coach, as a teacher, it just comes and it just never ends. And so there are some things that you can delegate to other people to do. So think about those things that you can delegate because I know with teachers sometimes we want to take care of all things and do all things ourselves. Sometimes you're just not able to do all things yourself. And so sometimes you may have to delegate it to somebody else. And if it's not as important as you sometimes, we think things are very important and they're not really. Know when those things aren't as important. But I also say that self-care is top of the list. You gotta take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, so then that's perfect because now how do we help those teachers like reconnect with their why? So we're trying to prevent that burnout and we know that there's going to be times when the pressure is going to be high. So in those moments, what are some strategies that teachers could use to reconnect with their why that can help them stay engaged?
As I said, I'm a big planner. And so when you start feeling like you're lost, go back to the plan. I like to write it out just because that paper gives me something to go back to when I start feeling like I'm lost. And so go back, look at your plan and see what is on your plan and because it'll ground you. Okay, what is it that I really need to do at this point? Sometimes you may need to tweak that plan a little bit, but most of the time it's going to stay, you know. It's going to be the plan. Go back to the plan, and that will ground you and help you to determine what the priorities are. I'm also a big person on talking to my people. So talk to your people. To always talk to your teachers, fellow teachers, talk to your admin, talk to all of them. I think that communication is huge. So you want to do those things. And when you are feeling like you have had enough, then you need to talk to somebody about it because we sometimes as kids say now we have a tendency to crash out, and if you just talk to your instructional coach and let that person be that sounding board for you, pick that person and talk to them. That's what I feel like instructional coaches are for because we've been there too. We know what it's like. We're not going to hold it against you. Find somebody that you trust and talk to them about it and take care of yourself. That's number one because if you are not good, then your kids won't be good either.
Yes. So I want to reiterate that you mentioned that you are someone that likes to write things down.
Mhm.
I'm also that way. Something that helps me is to make sure that when I'm writing things down, I have a dedicated space where I'm keeping up with my things. Because sometimes people can hear that and they got a sticky note here, a sticky note there. They got a notebook here they done started and another notebook over here. And then when it's time to kind of accomplish these tasks, you done forgot where you were
Mhm.
because everything is not together. So I'm just going to add on to what Miss Tony shared. Write those things down, y'all, but make sure you have a dedicated space. that you can come back to, and I'm thinking of one teacher in particular as I say this, bless her heart, because she had a whole bunch of notebooks that was started.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's super important that
Mhm,
we are organized in that way, and also, I'm hearing as you're talking that sometimes you have to be willing to invest the time on the front end to
mhm.
run more efficiently on the back end, to be less stressed on the back end. If I sit down right now and I take the time to prioritize, to plan, to
Mhm.
look at the high leverage items, then when it's time for these things to be used or to be put into place, I'm ready versus me now scrambling trying to figure out what's what and what
Right.
do I need to do next.
Right,
So
everything's intentional, every single thing. It's
it
like you
ha-
making every math minute count, make it all meaningful, and that's how you do it, is by looking at your plan and working your plan. Make your plan, work your plan.
if you had to think about a small, consistent practice
Mhm.
out of all the things that you've shared so far that could lead to big impact in math instruction over time, what would that small, consistent practice be?
Questioning. That's a big thing for me because you have questioning during your lesson plan. So if you're creating your lesson and you know that there's a certain you have your objective for the day, but you want to make sure that your kids reach this objective, then you should be scripting a question or 2 to 3 questions to ask kids to see if they get that objective for that day, you know. Conceptual questions, not a yes or no type of question. You want those higher level questions. You may have some that are at that lower level, but not yes or no. And I think that questioning is a skill that you have to develop, and that's something that happens during PLCs too. Um, so that you are able to get to the meat of what the kids know. Sometimes you may have to create sentence stems for the kids. Making sure that your instruction is to the level of the question that you're going to ask is a huge, huge piece because sometimes if we have our instruction is lower level, we can't ask a kid a higher level question because there's no way that they're going to be able to bridge to that. So your instruction has to be at that level that you ask your questions, and you want your kids to be at the highest level, so that instruction has to be high. The questioning has to be high. You want to make sure that if you have those sentence stems, that you're modeling those sentence stems, how to use those sentence stems, what your thinking is for the students. But you also want to think about what you want the kids to say in response to the questions that you are asking. Because that right there, you can bounce it off and ask another question to the students around. And they can even answer questions that make you say, huh, I like that. Let's, all right, such and such, add some more to that, and so it becomes a conversation. So questioning is huge and on different levels of questioning. And just knowing what you want the kids to say, because that tells you if they're gonna make that next connection that you're gonna come with.
Mm.
So
So I've so appreciated this opportunity to speak with you. I feel like we are just scratching the surface of what I want us to talk about or to get into together. Before we go though, I want to ask you one more question. If
mhm.
you could give every educator one mindset shift to carry into the new year, what would it be?
One mindset shift to carry into the new year. It always comes back to rigor for me and the connections, always. And the whys behind it, the mathematics, always comes back to me because I want my kids to always know why they're doing things and always be able to apply the mathematics when I'm not standing over their shoulders. So all the things that you do with your kids, reflect and think about, did my kids really know that? Or did I did did I leave thinking they did and maybe the scores weren't as high on that piece? Did I think that why did I think they got that and they really didn't? So what could I do different to get them to where I want them to be? So just really reflecting on that. Really reflecting on your craft and thinking about what could I do to increase the rigor on that? What can I do to question? What can I do to help them to see the why behind it? What can I do to help them to apply that knowledge when I'm not there? That right there is where I spend my time. What can I do?
Mm. So what I'm hearing is, although I'm the teacher, I don't want that student to always be reliant on me and my thinking. So where I need to shift my mindset is thinking that I always have to be the expert. At some point, we want that student to be able to stand on their own and be able to reason through things,
Mhm. I
right?
want to be a facilitator in my classroom, and I want to pull that out of the kids. I want everything to come from them. I wanna pull it out of them. So
Mm,
how can I do that? If I haven't done that, then what can I do to get that to
mm,
get that done? Do I need extra support to get that done?
mm,
Because that right there is all of the other things that we've talked about, it's all encompassed right there. If it's student centered, it's already higher level question. It's already keeping them to that higher level. It's already listening to conversations. It's already taking them to that deeper level because if you're going to ask a deeper level question, that means you've had to have higher level instruction, deeper instruction so that they can answer it. And so it's all encompassed there. So
wow.
yes, what can I do to get them deeper?
Mm. Well, I surely hope that this is not the last time that I have the pleasure of speaking with you on this platform. I'm hoping that we can have more conversations together. And I'm seeing you nod. So I think that means, yes, you're
Yes.
willing to come. Okay, I'm doing my happy dance. Y'all can't see it, but she can. All right. So thank you so much, Miss Tony, for joining me as we talk about math moves that matter. If today's conversation sparked a shift in your thinking, remember capacity isn't built in a single day. It's built one intentional move at a time. Whether it's rethinking how you use student data, choosing depth over coverage, or refining routines to support conceptual understanding from day one, you're laying the foundation for instruction that sticks. And as we move from summer into the school year, keep your soul at the center. The work is urgent, but it doesn't have to be frantic. Clarity over chaos, strategy rooted in soul. You've got what it takes, not because you have all the answers, but because you're committed to asking the right questions. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a colleague, leave a review, and check out the journal linked in the show note to keep the learning going. Until next time, Kate, keep making moves that matter because your capacity is the key to their confidence. See you guys in the next episode.